Okay, let's see. Ah, bloody hell. Um, oh, there we go. Right. Aha. Oh, bugger. Oh, no, is that... Ah, shit. Well, that didn't last long. Okay. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hello. Let me sort out the video, because this has got to be it's an ideal. Oh, no. There. Video capture device, right. Remove the filters. And okay, right. Hello, everyone. As I said, happy Wednesday. Right, now this is... Oh, I'll leave that to temper a little bit. Oh, shit. Okay. Might not work as well as I'd hoped. Ah, bugger. That's broken, isn't it? Yeah, looks like it. Well, that's what happens when plastic gets too cold, I suppose. Okay, right. You have no doubt noticed that it's a little bit different from normal. Well, I was going to have a chat with a couple of artist friends of mine. Turns out scheduling stuff, it's going to work out better next week. So that's all cool because I'm actually a little bit tired, a little bit out of it. So that'll probably go better next week. So what I'm going to do today is we were going to have Jiggling Atoms on artists. Instead, we're dealing with something with not very jiggling atoms, at least relative to water at room temperature, which is a big ass block of ice. Now, I have produced this previously using a, I can't say it very well there, but a pretty standard cool box. The idea is to freeze it in one direction at a time so that it produces very nice clear ice. And as you can see, this bottom bit, which was at the top, it's been inverted. This bottom bit is nice and clear. And what's happened here is I've left it to freeze. So if we... Oh, it's frozen to the chopping block. Okay, we'll need to leave that to temper for a minute. But I've left it to freeze in the cool box, and as it's frozen from the top down, all of the crystals are aligned in one direction, and it's left a void of liquid water in here. So I stopped freezing it before it had frozen all the way through, and then I drilled... Let's turn the whole thing around. I drilled a... there we go. A hole in the side here and drained the water out. Very cold water. So, focus. That's not ideal. Oh, that's fine. So I drained the very cold water out, and I've got left mostly solid block of ice, about half solid ice, half ice with a void in the middle. So I haven't done it with one quite this big before. Thank you, Amy. I should be alright. Unfortunately, doing it this big, so I've done one before I've done a couple before actually in this container, in this cool box. I did them a bit smaller. I left this one longer, and it's expanded and seems to have either during expansion or when I've been handling it, it's broken my cool box, which is a little bit unfortunate, but oh well. So if you're expecting normal chat, this is this is something a bit different. Um, but yeah, so that cool box is a bit busted. But I think I might be sensible to move to a smaller cool box and maybe just get a couple of them and kind of rotate them out, because this big block of ice is fun, but it's not exactly the easiest to deal with. So I haven't really dealt with one quite this big before, uh, at least that I've produced myself. So if this cocks up, um, it might make a bit of a mess, but hopefully it'll go fine. And yeah, if it does cock up, it'll make entertaining content. So there you go. Right, really what I need to do is leave this for a few minutes, um, because it needs to reach sort of melting point on the surface so it doesn't crack quite as much. Just get all the little bits of dust and whatnot off. Let's see if maybe we can start making a bit of a incision. So I'm going to start trying to carve in with a bread knife, trying to cut off at least some of this top bit, which will make for useful ice, but it won't make for the really nice big super clear cubes, which is the main reason for doing this. So I'm just trying to sort of score a groove in, and then I'm going to give it a bit of a whack and see if we can get it to fracture. Now, these early bits, you just want to kind of hack off large chunks, so it doesn't matter if it fractures a bit badly. So I'm just going to put my bread knife in that groove, and then see if we can get a bit of whack with the back of a mallet. That's chipping off quite a lot, but not making a huge dent. Let's see. Hopefully this isn't too bad audio. Do let me know if I should mute. So yeah, I just thought this would be a fun, weird thing to do for stream. The reason why I'm doing all of this hassle, is because I like having very clear ice in my drinks. As an aesthetic thing, it makes for great cocktails, really adds to the visual of the experience, and also I find good quality clear ice, it just, I don't know, tastes a bit better, in the same way that, you know, drinking Coke from a glass bottle just tastes that bit better than Coke from a can. Not so much because the literal chemical composition has changed, but because its flavour is a multi-sensory experience, and that just the mouthfeel of having a nice cool glass to sip from, producing a nice linear flow, is pleasing. So yeah, clear ice is nice, and it's fun to try to produce some. So let's try a bit more tapping. So shard, and keep all the shards and stuff because I can use that for cracked ice later on. Yeah, so it like depends neurobiology of flavor and taste. Like the perception of the kind of higher perception that makes up like flavor, makes up any like complex percept. We don't know like a huge amount about, but the lower level sort of basic sensory inputs coalesce with the or feed into the higher level sensory cortices, um, which are the kind of outer layer of the brain where a more complex processing takes place. Sorry, this is not a very good explanation. I am trying to focus a little bit, which makes for poor explaining. I am making a dumb. Right, let's see if we can score a bit more into there. Maybe do the other side. Ideally, if I can get a one big fracture line, then I can. Yeah, thinking about it, the kind of higher level, more subjective aspects of flavour we don't seem to understand very well. It's based on my knowledge. Things might have moved on in the few years since I did my degree, but or maybe I'm just overlooking some big area. Because I know a moderate amount about, not as much about neural processing of gustatory, like of taste stimuli, beyond the kind of receptor level stuff. I did a bit of the receptor level neurobiology in my signaling lessons, but most of the sensory stuff I've done is focused on hearing or vision. I did a hearing project for my masters. Which involved ferrets. We were doing like pitch perception experiments, trying to get the ferrets to discriminate between high and low frequency tones, using different like components to give them the components of sound to give them the pitch information. Right. This is definitely a bit trickier with a large block. I can see why the professionals use chainsaws, because all I'm really trying to do here is get a fracture line rather than like cut through the whole thing. Let's see if this maybe works. Chunk. It's fine. Oh, there we go. Nice. Right. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, you are going to wake up one day with a chainsaw going twice. Here we go. So here's the inside of the cavity that did have just those bits are nice and sharp. That's interesting. It's formed a kind of crystal I can't see it very well, but some kind of crystal ridges. Um, so this bit's all cloudy because it's been pressed together at the bottom of the cool box as it's been freezing. So that bit I can crush up into little pieces and use it um, as like crushed ice for drinks. Hey J-Tibbs, yeah, I'm feeling well. I've been kind of up and down. Definitely better than I was like last weekend. Um, Thank you for asking. It's yeah, just lots of things going on. Lots of personal crap and mental health crap and whatnot. Um, but fortunately, when I have the energy to do it, this stream is definitely good for me. Um, right, so, and I'm feeling good right now because I'm playing around with ice, which I always enjoy. Okay, so I fractured it a bit higher than would have been absolutely optimal, because ideally you want it kind of level with the bottom of this bowl, because now I have to like carve off some of this stuff. But had I gone lower, there was the chance of just falling the whole thing apart and losing out on some of the precious super clear ice at the bottom. Um, so now I'm going to start trimming the sides down a bit, see if I can kind of fracture some of that off, and get a relatively smooth kind of block that I can start. Um, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I will. I will let you know if I ever do. I am fortunate that I have quite a good support network. Luckily, I have very loving parents, and of course my wonderful fiance, and quite a few lovely friends who have been very supportive. So yeah. Oh, cool. What did you do in mental health? Because uh, Amy Neon Golden on here uh, did some mental health work before going back and going to graduate school. Well, I mean, she's doing mental health work now, but it's more on the research end of things than the practice. And yeah, I do often think if I didn't have really good friends and loving family and so forth, I would be in such a worse position. I am very fortunate in that regard. Right, let's do another whack. Ooh, that's alright. Got some more fragments, making a little bit of a mess, but it's fine. Right, let's see if we can kind of carve down here a bit. If not, I can just, excuse me, I can just kind of shave it off, but that wastes some. It's not as elegant. And try to cut in towards the block a little bit and get a good notch in there. You don't even have to do it that hard, because part of it is just kind of melting through thanks to the conductivity of the metal knife. Need to get my fingers out of there. Don't want to slice one off. Why is this? Oh, cool. Let's see. I enjoy watching those YouTube videos of someone doing something just simple very competently. This isn't one of those, but because I'm not particularly competent at this, I'm just enthusiastic. But there's a very good YouTube series by a Japanese dude who does knife sharpening, and he's just insanely good at sharpening knives. And so he'll spend, you know, 10, 15 minutes or something uh, just gradually sharpening this sometimes beautiful knife and sometimes just a complete piece of shit knife, and then inevitably performs amazing tasks with it, you know, slicing cucumber micrometers thick and cutting sheets of silk as they drop and whatnot. Ooh, that produces quite a nice pattern. It's a shame I don't have a better webcam. If I just slowly saw it back and forth, it produces a kind of herringbone pattern. Well, not a herringbone, more of a like scales, like fish scales. If I ever get into artistic carving of ice, I shall have to remember that. Yeah, the sort of speed with which I do it relative to the movement downwards produces different patterns. That's interesting. Right, at this stage I need to cut into here a bit more. Okay, I might be a little bit more daring and go for a bigger chop, because otherwise I'm just going to gradually shave it all down, which is fun, but not really what I'm going for in terms of preserving some usable ice. Right, why is this not auto-scrolling? The chat window usually automatically scrolls. I don't know. Let's see. Just throw away some of the chips. Well, I say throw away. The chips are going in my bucket here, which is keeping them relatively cool and means that minimal ice is wasted. My understanding is that during monodirectional freezing, which is what I've used here, it's frozen in from the top down, and it prevents the forming of inclusions, which are when different like wavefronts of crystal formation interfere with each other, and also pushes down some of the dissolved minerals, making it purer. Use that in a non-normative sense. I'm not sure how much of that is true exactly. Well, I know that I'm confident that the interfering sort of crystal formation is true. I'm not sure how much of the solutes actually pushes out. I would guess some. At least any larger particles. Right. Oh, that's very cool, J-Tibbs. Yeah, I know a couple of people doing sort of AI mental health stuff. And, well, we had that discussion with Christian Brown. If you haven't seen that, do go watch that. Stanley Cake Lie, a pill that makes you high anymore when you get not high anymore when you get too stoned. There are cannabinoid antagonists. Look into those, though. Probably not the sort of thing to be messing around with. I think there's a Vice article where someone takes them for shits and giggles, though, because Vice. Right, let's make another daring hammer blow. So. Nope, just explosion of ice chunks. No. Okay, it's not its time yet. Just lots of little chips. Most of these will just evaporate, so that's fine. But the larger chunks of slush I'm putting in a glass so as not to cause it all to melt all over the place. Right, let's just continue with the sawing a little bit. I do have an electric jigsaw, but that's probably not a great idea from a health and safety perspective, and B, is not going to sound great on stream. Maybe no. Right. Let's see if it's not ideal here. Yeah, going through the never-ending cycle of finding antidepressants is a big problem for a lot of people, and it was particularly frustrating a couple of years ago when I started on escitalopram for a second time, because I was taking it during my teens, and it was by far the most effective thing. And I tried regular citalopram as well, and hadn't tolerated it well. The side effects were unpleasant. I got lots of like brain zaps and all kinds of nasty things. So I rotated into escitalopram, and found that was both reasonably effective and minimal for side effects. Obviously, your mileage may vary. I'll mention that in a second. But so when more recently, a couple of years ago, I came to need some antidepressants, I asked the GP straight up for escitalopram, but no, I had to go through I think venlafaxine or something. No, it wasn't venlafaxine. I can't remember what I went through first. Whatever the current first line antidepressant is, and fluoxetine for a while, and then they put me on citalopram, and finally onto escitalopram, and that was a cycle of several months, which was particularly frustrating because I was reasonably confident I knew which one was going to work best, but it's not working very well. The treatment algorithm didn't allow it, which there are plenty of problems with the US system, many problems, but I can appreciate the desire some people have to, keep their friendly doctors who are willing to treat you more like a customer. There are, like I say, many reasons why that's bad, but and obviously I'm in a somewhat privileged position to have the kind of biomedical knowledge to be able to like assess papers in oh shit, another Twitch streamer. Who was it? That's a real shame. Well, yeah, just that fucking sucks. It is very shitty when people commit suicide, and I kind of understand that people's reaction of saying, it's the coward's way out, or it's so selfish or whatever. I get the emotion behind that, but it's really not that simple. And people who commit suicide, by and large, are people who've been suffering from a horrible state of being, a vastly reduced quality of life for so long that they see no other way out. And it's not cowardice. It's sometimes an understandable and sort of reasonable reaction to what seems like a situation that's never going to end. Of course, for most people it does eventually end, or one can hope. For most people with depression, but people who commit suicide tend to be the most severe cases, so it just fucking sucks. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's correlation with between streaming and mental health issues. Not so much because streaming causes mental health issues, although with very popular streamers, I understand some issues arising. Anyone being famous, but uh, the kind of skill set of streaming sort of relies on being very online and very indoors, and that correlates with, or that is often brought about by, certainly was brought about in my case, by mental health issues. There we go. Okay, that's a nice decent chunk. That's what I intended to do for real this time. So now I can saw in a bit, and we haven't got this, I can see what I'm doing, but haven't got this annoying little bit hanging off here, so hopefully I can kind of, right, saw in there, and now decent right angle to hit down. Yeah, that's all exceedingly plausible. I mean, well, Neon Golden, Amy, is literally doing some research on the effects of COVID on mental health, and I would be surprised if if it doesn't end up turning some positive associations. I mean, positive in the numerical sense rather than in the statistical sense, rather than in the normative sense, of course. And yeah, social connection, exercise, and not having a sort of impending sense of doom are all good factors for good mental health. Right, let's see if we can get a decent hit here. No, we're just chipping off. Although that works quite nicely to chip. Okay. I'm kind of experimenting here, because I don't often get to work on a block of ice this big, and most of the time I just buy my ice at the store, because I get through quite a lot of it. But this was an experiment in producing larger blocks, and we live and learn. But yeah, JTibs, I'm, well, definitely not the happiest I've ever been, but the last sort of 4 months or so, relative to the couple of years before that, at least 18 months before that, have been pretty good by the standards of my mental health. And no small part thanks to my beginning streaming, although my beginning streaming is partially enabled by my mental health being a bit better. So it's a virtuous cycle. If I try to cut in a little bit. Yeah, it's certainly not a universal effect by any means. Sometimes crises bring out the best in people, sometimes they just end up getting us all very depressed, or getting many people very depressed. Usually a bit of both. Let's see if we can get some frost off. This is nice. Okay. Right, I'm going to try a bit of an alternative, which might go wrong, but shouldn't negatively impact on the important good ice, because it's the good ice we want to save. Yeah, there's definitely advantage to having everyone work from home in the sense that, I mean, from my perspective at least, the sense that I don't feel quite so isolated being at home all the time. Because the last couple of years I've barely left the house, so I don't feel quite so abnormal in the current environment. Try to get a nice deep score. See, part of the problem with a block of ice this big is that with the previous cooler I used, the overall length of it was about the same as this knife. So I could, saw along and then hit it, and it would give a nice series of impacts along the whole length of the block, or at least whole width. But here it's not quite the same. Also, I've left this to freeze, like I say, a bit too long. So whereas previously the sides of the bit down here would be quite thin, because the cool box doesn't offer fantastic insulation, at least not over hours to days that it takes for all of this to freeze. It has frozen in from the sides a bit, resulting in very thick walls. As if it was perfectly freezing from one direction, if it was perfectly insulated, then the freezing would literally all be in one direction. The whole bottom of the cool box would be still liquid. But we have imperfect equipment and imperfect knowledge, so we get imperfect results, but nevertheless usually pretty satisfying. Okay, let's give this a go. Right. Pray for me. Shit. I broke my mallet. Okay, right. Let's see if I can fix that or whether that's just done. Okay, if it is just done, I've got other options. Oh, good job, J-Tibbs. I shall have to give you a follow. Right. Shall do that. Do that now while I remember. Twitch. Unless I've already followed you. I haven't checked Twitch in a couple of days. Let's see, where's my... Right. There we go. Giving you a follow. I shall have a little watch later. Right, okay. Now that my mallet is definitely completely fixed, totally for real, definitely not gonna break again, I hope. Let's give that another... If we can... There we go. How about that? That's pretty good. Right, got a couple of nice big chunks there. You can see that the outer bits where it's frozen in inwards have nice clarity there, but then towards the centre where it's gotten compressed and fractured, it's cloudy, which we don't want, though it's fine for like crushed ice and whatnot. Right. Okay, that's getting a bit closer to the kind of thing we desire. Okay, I might just kind of take a quick layer off to sort of smooth that down a bit. Right. Shall I put down a bit of kitchen roll, because this is just going to produce stuff that's going to melt immediately. Right. What am I doing? I am carving ice for mostly cocktails, but also for really satisfying glasses of soft drinks, because I like it aesthetically, essentially, and I'm a bit of a cocktail nerd. Right, this bit specifically, I'm not, but if I collect it, I can make a nice drink out of that. So, how's my glucose doing? Actually, I might have a nice glass of like slushy Coke. So if I have a bit of insulin now, by the time I'm done shaving, I can have some Coke, which is nice. Got a insulin pen. It's remembers how much I've had for the last dose. It's got a little LCD display on the end that shows how much I've had, which is quite useful if I do forget to immediately put it into my record thing. Right, so I'll just have a bit there. And yeah, I can have a nice shaved ice soft drink so as not to waste any. Right. I mean, it's only frozen water, but I don't know, I have a distinct fondness for ice. I put substantially more time and effort into my ice production than I think the vast majority of the population. But we all have our interests, and ice specifically, I have a fondness for. Right. Go. Do that on the other side. It's a bit difficult from that angle. Did wash my hands before this. Let's try it like this. It's probably not going to work super well. I don't know. Maybe not. Just muttering to myself. Oh, that's not bad. Oops, Daisy. There we go. And that's a nice glass of shaved ice. And that's how you properly make shaved ice. Don't accept none of this like crushed nonsense. I mean, crushed ice makes for good drinks as well, but for a proper refreshing daiquiri, the most refreshing daiquiri you can have, got to be proper shaved ice, which they use at Boadas in Barcelona, just off the Ramblas. So if you're ever in Barcelona and want a daiquiri, go to Boadas, because they're absolutely excellent. Just popping up to get myself some Coke from the fridge. And I finally defrosted my freezer, which I'm sure you're all excited to hear. But was quite the undertaking for me because I have a quite cheap freezer in my living room, which does the job admirably, except for the fact that it gets frosted up very easily. And I also am quite lazy about defrosting it, so it had built up over the course of a couple of years, and just all but one drawer had become unusable, and I'm not making a cocktail, I'm just having a glass of Coke with lovely freshly shaved ice. Yeah, where else on Twitch will you get a scientist making a shaved ice glass of Coke? Right. So this is pretty good. It's not perfectly flat, but part of the fun of this kind of shaped ice is that it's a bit irregular and, you know, handmade. Right. It's a little bit fractured. Let's see if we can get this bit off. There we go. And I've got a chest freezer in the garage, which is where the cool box lives, or did live until it's broke. It's now a bit useless. But that stores the bulk of my ice, and then I use the freezer in here to store ice for easy access. Absolutely. It's everything you need out of life is drinks and neuroscience. It doesn't work as well that way. Okay, it's actually quite a pleasingly efficient way of making it. Like I say, I'm kind of just experimenting a bit here. Let's see, is that... Oh, there's a bit of fluff. Oh, annoying. Okay. Now, how to slice this up? So, this is the good ice, which I want to be careful with. The block is nicely tempered a bit. And so let's see if we can get sort of 5 centimeter cubes. Hello, Mr. Doctor, sir. Yeah, I was alright at chemistry, but not great with maths, which ruled me out of computational neuroscience. I wish I'd studied a bit more economics formally. Like, I kind of go back now and take a bit of an interest in it, but weirdly, as much as I mocked PPE students, politics, philosophy, and economics students during my undergrad, I now kind of wish I'd taken it, maybe as well as physiology, but gotten much more interested in like actual political philosophy as opposed to me stuff, and economics after my undergrad. Anyway, I'm just waffling now. Try to make a good hit. Not ideal. Let's try and cut a bit deeper because I don't want to just go flaking off big loads of this in unusable chunks. So if I saw a bit deeper, hopefully develop some fractures that'll propagate properly in a nice, smooth fashion. Bugger. That is not so much what I wanted, though there are uses for... I have two freezers that I get a lot of ice used in them. Neither is exclusively for ice, but pretty much. Right, so these aren't going to be ideal shapes, but I can still make good use of them. There we go. So that's how it works ideally. Nice, clean tap, but it's more difficult to get done with the larger shapes. Oh yes, bottom of the fridge freezer as well, though that doesn't get used for ice. That's just for food. Right. Okay. I might try carving this down a little bit with my small knife. I haven't really used this much before. That cuts through quite efficiently. Cuts through very efficiently. Okay. Right. Nice and clear. You can see my finger behind it very easily. That's what we like to see. So I'm just kind of carving them into rough shapes that'll fit into a glass tolerably well. Don't have to be too precise. Okay, that's right. Do a drug stream. Well, I've done a stream about legalization of drugs with the excellent Daniel Pryor, which I would heartily recommend. I think that's on my YouTube or whatnot. But more generally, yeah, I'll certainly do some more stuff about drugs. What kind of drug content would you be interested in? I know a reasonable amount about both medical and recreational drugs, and of course the line between the two is often very blurry or not really there, or at least is very artificially constructed for political reasons. Could talk about nicotine sometime, though I'm no great expert on pharmacology. I did do a bit in my undergrad, reasonable amount. Cocaine's interesting stuff. Um, still, still used a little bit for I think certain like ocular surgery, and of course very popular in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Sigmund Freud wrote most of his work on it, including a pamphlet eulogizing it, which explains a lot about the quality of his psychoanalysis. Yes, Restream is a thing for streaming on multiple platforms. So the YouTubers see your comments in the thing on screen. Oh, hey Stanley. Oh. But yeah, I can definitely do some drug content sometime. I should have a think. Right. Let's give this another hit. See if I'm feeling lucky. Nope. Nah, not great. But okay, let's just try to a nice hard line interrupt the formation of these fragments. Oh, and no, these aren't really worth saving. Right, unfortunately I've got a second class there. Good thing I'm doing this on a towel because I am getting a bit of runoff melt. Obviously the block itself is going to be fine for hours. Indeed, the Ice King of Baltimore, the dude who introduced like ice to the world market, would just sail around massive multi-ton chunks of the things as far as India, and it still had plenty left to sell when it got there, so I'm not too concerned. Fracture, you bastard. Don't want it to just completely splinter like that. Ah, there we go. Oh yeah, I should talk a bit about the stats of that, because the thing is the health consequences of smoking are complex, and the like and the relative risks of different consequences vary. So like some risks, I don't want to say off the top of my head because I don't want anyone misquoting it. I need to go back and check over. But some of the risks seem to scale pretty linearly with the number of cigarettes you smoke. Some of them scale like exponentially. So there are some types of cancer that you have to smoke a lot to like really substantially increase your risk of. Whereas there are some lung disorders that like any amount of smoking does meaningfully increase your risk like quite substantially. Um, so yeah, it's one of these very complex things. Um, and yeah, I mean honestly, if you've smoked for like 3 months, what like like in your life. If it's in your life, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm not a doctor and so forth, but like it's fine. Right, this one's not bad. Let's take the corners off a little bit. If we can get it into something approximating a sphere, maybe. That's probably a bit ambitious, but what the hell. I suppose just keep on taking corners off until there are no more corners. That's not really close to a sphere. I see these videos of expert ice carvers doing it, and there are some, some Tokyo bars where cocktails are like 50 quid a drink, but each one is a masterpiece of artistry, and they're just hacking out ice spheres with a few deft blows of their picks. And here's me like carving a shitty potato. But you get better at things with practice. Take off a little chunk of my thumbnail. Fine. Okay, there we go. Put that in. Mustn't get too distracted. Just doing this carving because I do have smaller bits in this ice box, and I don't want them all to melt down into the bottom. Or at least because even a bit of melting, they do become a bit more difficult to separate. But yeah, whatever smoking calculator is telling you, I would discount it. But it's always a problem with public health stuff, is that if you tell people the actual risks that are usually quite complex, they'll ignore you. They'll often ignore you. So some public health organisations will be a bit oversimplifying, and will get into their heads that it's justifiable to be misleading, or not even necessarily misleading, but to dumb things down to the stage that it's easy to communicate to the kind of general populace, but anyone with a bit more sophistication is going to find it lacking. And then you get some health professionals who get very focused on the legitimate risks with their chosen area of specialty, but then use that to argue that it's the main thing or the only thing that should be considered, and that we must fight whatever the public health demon du jour is, to the exclusion of everything else. And it's not that they're malicious or anything, or not that they're trying to implement a nanny state, but it does sometimes lead to weird priorities where we try to optimize for years of health rather than quality of life. This is, I mean, I'm hacking a chunk in it. Right, it's usually, there we go. Right, there we go. That's nice. Look at that, beautiful. And though not perfectly at right angles, that's pretty decent. PogChamp indeed. Yeah, yes, PogChamp indeed. I only found out what Poggers is like a couple of weeks ago or something. I mean, not a couple of weeks ago, but for a while I was watching some Destiny streams and whatnot, and everyone's just going Pog, 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 and I'm like, huh, what? Oh, nearly lost that, but nice chunk here. Right. I meant to get this big block out sort of 10-15 minutes before I started the stream, which would have given it time to temper a bit more, and would be splitting a bit better. But now it's tempered nicely and is, as I was about to say, is splitting really nicely, and then it doesn't split particularly nicely. Oh well, that will be a little chunk. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Sag? No idea. Whatever happened to Candlejack, eh? Candlejack and the Numa Numa guy. All Your Base. Remember that? All Your Base? Oh, them were the days, lad. Right. Feeling this is going to be a good one. And get a nice good cube out of this. Or when I say cube, you know, it's something approximating a cube. Although everyone says ice cubes for things that that definitely aren't cubes. No, that wasn't quite as good as I thought. Sometimes the fractures go in your favour, and sometimes they don't. Although this isn't by any means bad. And the advantage of doing this by hand is you do get a variety of different shapes, which can work nicely for a variety of different glass shapes. So if I put those will work nicely in a Collins glass, a long, tall glass, and you can get the more like squat ones for rocks glasses. Yeah. Okay, let's just carve that off. That's fine. Then oh yeah, I could not survive either. Know Your Meme is so good. Back in the day we didn't have Know Your Meme. You had to go ask around on 4chan and make yourself look like an idiot. But it didn't matter because everyone was anonymous. Sag, it's a Pepe variant. What's new about this one? Okay. I bet when you woke up this morning or this afternoon, you didn't expect to be watching a man carve ice through a low quality webcam. And yet here you are, with me. And that's the wonder of the internet. Right, I'm going to do a nice, like, thing actually approximating a cube for this one. Try to get some sharp edges. I need to make that astronaut meme with you know, it was always America, or it was always whatever, or it's all X and always was, you know, that one, but with signaling, and then post it every time anyone goes on a rant about virtue signaling, because everything's signaling of in-group and out-group and whatnot. All communication involves signaling. I'm just grumpy. I keep on seeing people going on about how awful signaling is, and it's like, fucking, what do you think we're doing right now? What do you think you're doing right now? Jesus. Alright. Okay, that's actually a pretty good cube. Look at that. I'm really pleased with that. Right. Hopefully that's, yeah, the bottom of the cool box is still pretty cool. Oh, yeah, I should drink my Coke. I'll top up. I'll have a little bit more Coke. Thank you for reminding me, Amy. The app that monitors my blood glucose also streams it via the internet to my fiancée. So, in a meaningful sense, she is part of my endocrine system. I outsource part of my endocrine system to my fiancée, and I'm very grateful for her always keeping an extra eye on that, because sometimes I don't quite as ideally as I should, and thus it's helpful to have someone to nudge me. Not that it's heading dangerously low, you understand, but it was giving me the little warning buzzes that it's about to start heading low, and you know, it's good to catch it now before it becomes. Yes, you should add blood glucose monitorer to your special skills. Right. That is nice and refreshing with my beautiful fresh ice. And see, if you have more ice in the drink, generally speaking, it overall waters down slower, because you end up having it melt slower, rather than just like immediately equilibrating temperature with the drink that you pour in. Right. Well, we've got some bubbles around the edges, but the centre of this core of it is nice. Again, not ideal. It seems to work a bit better with the smaller lumps, so generally the smaller, like starting block. So yeah, I should get a new cooler, and this time make it a smaller one, so I don't run into the same problems. My reach exceeded my grasp trying to make big, many kilo blocks of ice at once. Perhaps I will have to leave that to the professionals. I'm just kind of carving away the bubbly layer. I've got in here. That was quite satisfying, that little tap. Right. producing these nice little sticks. Not sure what I'm going to do with those, but they're pleasing. Now, as you've no doubt noticed, this isn't exactly the most time-efficient way of producing ice, and if your goal is just a large amount of decent quality ice, then you know, the stuff you buy at the store is obviously more sensible, but you don't get the same satisfaction as you do with homemade ice. And it's quite expensive to get it in like really good big clear cubes. You have to go through a like professional ice supply store. Let's see if hitting it down this end helps. No, not really. Oh, I feel that coming loose again. Don't want my mallet to fly away yet again. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. Into the mouth. Nice. Weird. Okay. Do another potato sphere approximation. It's maybe we can call it an asteroid. It sounds more exciting than lumpy potato approximation. Look at that. Asteroid of ice. Wonderful. That's not too bad. Like I say, I can't claim to be particularly skilled at this, but I think I do alright. Oh. Yeah. By the end of the year, I'll be doing reviews for like different brands of chainsaw, and you know the Yamaha XL90 is pretty good, and the double grip guard makes for much easier grabbing when the ice starts to melt a bit. But for my money, I would go for the Mitsubishi KR7 with additional chain guard. I don't fucking know, but yeah, I'll have to. Well, will I do an ice sculpture Pepe or an ice sculpture Yi? That's the that's the eternal question. Right, how to approach this one? Let's take off the surface a bit where we've still got some bubbles. Because if we're going to do this, we may as well get nice clear ice all the way through rather than having a little bit of it bubbly. Whoops, but okay. Problem with this, it does get a little bit slippery after a while. As the actor said to the bishop. Right. Go. No, Yamaha make fucking everything. Yeah, yeah. They're like one of these big Japanese Zaibatsus, or like ex-Zaibatsus. I'm not sure if they're still considered Zaibatsus, but one of these huge conglomerates that make like fucking bikes, cars, like stationery. Mitsubishi, another one. They have like a few things they're famous for, but they also do like all kinds of, industrial machinery that you've never heard of, but is absolutely vital to some really important industrial process or manufacturing technique or whatever. Samsung are another one. Like, you've no doubt heard of, Samsung phones and TVs and whatnot, but they also have like an arms division, a shipbuilding division, like heavy construction division. I think Samsung's like 5-10% of the South Korean economy, something like that. It's a massive chunk of a pretty substantial, like, developed nation's economy, and they just do fucking everything. That's dispiriting. Ooh, don't want to have that go flying. Okay. No, no. Bugger. That's a bit gone. Oh, shit. Well, it had to go wrong sometime, because I am doing this on my couch, and bugger, it's gone. Right. It's kind of gone under, and I don't want to just leave that there, because otherwise it'll melt everywhere. And I can get a handle on it, but not actually pick it up. Okay, there we go. Right, that's no good anymore. I'll get rid of that, and I'll tip out this little glass I've been using for the offcuts while I'm there. Oh, that's a shame. That's just... Actually, I mean, if I wash that off, that'll be fine. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Just realised if I wash it off, it's fine because it's all water. Like, doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, standard Wednesday. I would say that it's, quarantine madness that's driven me to this, but I do this just normally. Although, like I say, not with quite such a big bit before. It's getting extra slippy now, so I should dab this down a bit so it doesn't go flying quite as much. Oh yeah, yeah. New Year's Eve party a couple of years back. I just broke out a axe in order to carve apart a very large piece of ice that I'd bought, because I was having trouble like this. It was actually in some dimensions bigger than this one, though I didn't like carve it up quite successfully so much as like smash it into bits and use those bits. But yeah, enlivened the party, I think. It's fair to say the ceremonial smashing apart of a massive chunk of ice. There we go. Right, and again, not huge, but nice, very clear chunks. Right, a fair bit more to go. Okay, I might try and sort of a bit more out of here, because it is a bit cloudy up the top. It's just a bit too thick. So if I can kind of shave off a good chunk from here, it'll also mean the top is flatter. Yeah, glucose is fine. Quite a fun little sort of shaving off here. Oh, and it collapsed. It's kind of half melting through the thin layer on the top, which is mostly avoiding it like completely splintering. Right. Haven't done much fiction in a while, but I was recently listening to the audiobook of Sum of All Fears by Tom Clancy, and on the one hand, it's a very interesting and largely extremely technically plausible account of how a loose nuclear fissile material, nuclear weapons material, could cause a massive international incident, and it's all very interesting. But it's also a Tom Clancy novel, and Tom Clancy, like, I love the kind of techno porn, great detail about cool, fascinating weapon systems and bloody headset. Interesting weapon systems and the challenges of strategic negotiations and international whatever, all the good spy shit. But his characters are just so crap. Like, I don't give a shit about Jack Ryan. I don't care about his idle misogyny against the one-dimensional, single. I know there were two female characters. I was about to say single, one-dimensional female character, but there were two. Pretty sure they never. Yeah. I should set up some custom follower alerts and whatnot. And I suppose they incentivize the sort of behaviour I would like to incentivize. And so yeah, that would be something I should try to figure out. Yeah, I do need to ask around, because I think what it's doing is, if it's not outputting anything, because it doesn't do this when I'm playing games or having conversations, but I think when it's not outputting anything for me to hear, it goes into like power saving mode after 20 minutes, half an hour or whatever, which is obviously not ideal when I'm talking but not listening to anything. I couldn't see anything in settings that did it, although maybe there's some utility I'm not using. Like, other than this thing, it's a very good headset, and at least based on what I've used so far, maybe it like craps out after a few more months, but so far it's very good, and I would recommend it for like general gaming or Discord usage, but not so much for streaming. Yeah, I should. If anybody has recommendations for good streaming music, or well, I mean, I've got most of my regulars in here, so if any of you have requests for the kind of thing you like to hear, I've mainly held off because I'm not sure how my tastes align, and also I want a like royalty-free source that that doesn't suck. Because obviously I don't want to get copy striked. Copy struck. Copy stroke. Right, this does produce good shaved ice. Right, I think one more round along here. Then should be thin enough for me to start doing into like actual cubes. Oops. Yeah, so for anyone who tuned in after the explanation, my planned discussion with the artists from Jiggling Atoms is forthcoming, but we had a bit of a scheduling issue, so that shall be sometime next week, possibly Wednesday, though I haven't finalised it. And instead I figured I would do a bit of ice carving. Right. Okay. Let's get a nice groove in. Let's see if we can get a smooth impact, a smooth cut. Yes, I have, or at least I messaged him. I'm not sure if he's gotten back to me, but I did remember to message him. Not quite. No, I'm going to lose the head again if I'm not careful. Yep. Nice. That's good. That's very good. Pleased with that one. I'd be happy to chat with you too. Let's see. Right. Go. And let's do those. There's a couple more long fingery ones for the longer drinks. Nice, nice long rectangle. And then this one can do down into proper cube. And there we go. Once again, a pleasing cube. Right. And let's put the top my drink up. A bit more ice slush. I'm on medical leave at the moment, currently. So, although if I were working properly, yeah, I wouldn't have any classes because I think in the US they tend to, Amy, like, because the typical doctorate in the US, I think, basically involves the equivalent of like a master's program for the first kind of year. You have like set classes and stuff, and then you do your project later on, at least in some US universities. I'm not sure if that's universal, because the standard US doctoral program is longer than 3 years, which is the kind of theoretical standard here in the UK, though most people, or a lot of people at least in the sciences, end up going a bit longer than 3 years. But here, but for me, I've spent a fair chunk of the time not actually being on the doctorate because, you know, medical bullshit. First couple of years went well, but then mental and physical health got in the way, unfortunately. But, you know, get back to studies, and I'm trying to do some work on a paper at least to, you know, keep up with interesting stuff. So it's related to the whole brainjacking stuff I've discussed previously. Okay. Right. This one's looking quite good. Ah, beautiful. Yes, perhaps I should do a stream of some of my research, though unfortunately a lot of it has just been kind of like skimming through papers in a way that's not necessarily that interesting to read, but to watch. But what I could do is like do the skimming through beforehand, and then kind of do a deeper read through the particularly relevant papers on stream. That might be a bit better. Yeah, like, let me know, folks, if you'd be interested in seeing me do some research on stream. Unfortunately, well, no, fortunately, research ethics committees don't let us do that anymore, which is probably for the best, let's be honest. Right, I'm going to try splitting it down here. see if we can get the very purest layer of ice into a manageable... This probably isn't going to work super well, but let's try for science. Ooh, sort of. It's better than I was expecting. Right. But yeah, unfortunately, the actual patients who received the nucleus accumbens stimulation sort of reported liking it, but they ended up quite fucked up, and most of them ended up getting it taken out, though they were a pretty fucked up population in the first place, so, you know, maybe it would go better if we implanted it in otherwise healthy people. Not that I'm advocating for that. We are quite some ways off actual, like, recreational brain stimulation. Unfortunately, because it would be really cool if we could, like, completely safely implant a device and modulate our cognition. I say pretty cool. It's... Okay. No worries. Thank you very much for watching, as usual. And yeah, I'm glad you've enjoyed the slightly unusual stream. Enjoy the gym, and I hope your work is going all right, J-Tibbs. Like I say, bit of an unusual stream today, but hopefully it's been... it's quite nice just, like, sitting and idly chatting. The carving gives me something to do, but you know, makes for a pleasant conversation. Right, let's try more of this. Right, try to sort of take a notch out. Close enough. Right, there we go. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for the kind of focusing powers of streaming. You know, I certainly find myself a little bit more, I don't know, like, careful to go through things and, you know, explain my way through something that can provide a useful way of looking at a problem. Okay, that'll do. Right, let's just get the corners carved off. A couple more small chunks. Just carve these up a little bit, make them into usable little ice cubes. And then we've got our last big beefy block here. So this is the real premium ice. Hopefully I won't cock this up too much. Not ideal. There we go. Right. That's nice. Okay. So this beefy one, I'm going to just take the corners off, and then it can fit snugly in a double old-fashioned glass with not very much room to spare, so that'll go well for an old-fashioned or a similar, like, short cocktail, which doesn't have much volume. So I can take up most of the glass with the ice. Shave down the top and bottom, just purely for aesthetics, and then another sort of big chunky cylinder thing. Just a quick slice of this one to get the sides reasonably straight. And there we go. Should hurry up with this so I don't let the stuff in here melt, because I've just got them in a cool box currently. Right, I should get rid of this ice slush as well. Ooh. Oops, it's melting in my hand as ices want to do. Ooh, watch out, Swishy. What are you up to? What are you doing? Right. And just get this last block. Okay. Probably get 3 out of that. Do that into thirds. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. Nice. Ooh, nearly lost another one. Okay, let's just carve down the sides a little bit. I can do that into 2. Go. These are good. Look how clear that is. A thing of beauty. Some might say I'm obsessed with ice. I wouldn't say it's an obsession. But I do like just pleasingly clear chunks of ice. And yeah, it's certainly gives you explaining through things, talking through processes gives you a good opportunity to kind of evaluate and make sure you truly understand the concept. I know there's been a couple of things on stream I've come to explain and sort of gone, no, I don't really understand this quite as well as I thought I did. But I try to be honest on here about the limits of my understanding. Although I'm no doubt imperfect as are we all. Oops. And last couple. That was very precise, lovely. And so one cube and one more like weird pseudo-cylinder sort of thing. Octagonal prism. Yeah, approximately octagonal prism, very irregular octagonal prism. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, sort of, kind of octagon-ish. Octagon adjacent. Right. And there we go. Okay. Cool. Haha, cool. Yes, concise. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for watching my weird stream. I hope it was interesting, informative, incredible, life-changing, breathtaking. Probably not all of those, but maybe interesting at least. Definitely settle for interesting. So yeah, I'm going to go fuck around and clear up a bit and put this in the freezer and whatnot. So thank you very much for watching. Possibly on Friday I'll have the conversation with Lust username that I was going to have last week, but wasn't that well for. But I'm not sure if he's actually responded yet, so no promises there. But certainly I'll have, health depending, have my usual like gaming and just like chatting and whatnot. And yeah, then next week we will have at least one guest, possibly more. Excuse me. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. It's, as always, very much appreciated that you seem to, dig my content. And yeah, have a good evening or afternoon, or delete as appropriate to time zone. And I will catch you later.